All right, welcome back to another episode of the NextGen Podcast. So, got Sam here with me again today, and we wanted to talk about wheat and kind of how we like to plan and get ready to make a good fertility program on wheat. And why don't you start us off there?
Yeah, feels a little weird already talking about drilling winter wheat. That means summer's just about over. So, yeah, it's time to start making plans for that.
But football is about to start, so
Yeah,
that's
so
nice.
yeah, I think everybody's pretty excited about that. I'm
Yeah.
about baseballed out. But no, in regards to winter wheat, so the first thing we want to do is we want to go out there and get a soil test. So, I mean, that's going to be your baseline for pretty much any crop that you're going to put in. I mean, you want to know what's in your soil, especially where we probably had some rotation in these dryland fields. So I guess I'm specifically talking about dryland right now, but a lot of these things overlap. But, where we had, where a lot of guys will go, probably 2 out of 3 years with some type of rotation where they'll have wheat and then the next year they'll plant a spring crop like grain sorghum or corn and then let that sit fallow for that summer, like right now, and then put that back into wheat. So, yeah, we need to get out and do some soil testing. It's a little hard in the dryland world because you never know. I mean, you always have a yield goal in what you think you can get, but it all depends on the rain, obviously. So, I mean, I don't think you need to go full bore, 1 acre grids or anything, or 2 acre grids on this field. A lot of times we just kind of do some composites just to kind of get a baseline level to see where we're at. So we need to get out there and do those. So with our starter for our wheat, a lot of times this is the best time to get any any phosphorus down or micronutrients because obviously they don't move in the soil very well. So that's another reason why it is important to get that test. That way at the planter we can address those things. That way that fertilizer's going into the ground. There's some guys that spread some dry. I know it's worked out for them, but I if you're going to use dry fertilizer, I'd rather see it with the air seeder. That it's placing it right next to those seeds in the furrow. I hate spreading it on top, and then it's got to get well. One, it's got to get it into the soil, and then two, it's got to get broken down. And what do you need to break it down? Water.
Right.
Moisture in
Yeah,
the soil.
and I think it depends on the type too. Like 1152O is not the same as putting, a sulfur product that's going to break down a little bit quicker and just provide a completely different benefit from an availability standpoint versus phosphorus dry product. So I know a lot of people around here use Mez too, and I like Mez. It's good. It's got a little bit of zinc into it in there with it with the Foss, and I mean it's not a bad product. It's just that it's a little more unpredictable, and like you said, with our sometimes we just struggle to get any moisture. Um, I mean, last winter, like we had almost zero snow all winter long, so that fertility was definitely not available in the spring when it needed to be. When we're talking fall fertilizer on wheat, a lot of times it's just a little bit to get it off to a good start. Really, what influences your fall tillering, which is the good tillers. I mean, that's where a lot of our yield comes from. A lot of our spring tillers end up just shooting out those sucker heads, and they really don't contribute a whole lot to yield. And so that fall tillering is something we want to make sure we influence. So that's why I always like just putting 10 to 15 pounds of nitrogen in the fall, unless we have, over 50 pounds available already in the soil, and, in that top 6 to 10 inches. So we want to stimulate that. If that plant is short nitrogen in the fall, it just won't tiller because it's already gonna hold itself back a little bit. And the same with moisture. If it's super dry in the fall, it's not gonna tiller as well. So those are kind of the two main things I like to focus on in the fall. Um, Another thing that when we're actually going to show a time lapse video here that one of our Pivot Bio colleagues did in Kansas. I think it was just south of Leota, Kansas. Pretty incredible. But what you'll see here is just um, the better tillering on the wheat that was treated with Return OS. So that Return OS is Pivot Bio's 25-pound nitrogen product with the two strains of bacteria it for winter wheat, and we also use it on multiple other grass crops, but specifically winter wheats where we've really have noticed a difference. And our counterpart over here west of us, Ty Mullahan, he's actually seen not necessarily where the tillering was better, but just where he's been in a minimal synthetic fertilizer environment with dry land. He's got decent organic matter. And so what he's been doing is just using that Return OS as his full nitrogen program for the wheat, and raising pretty good wheat, actually. It's very impressive.
Did he top dress any in the spring, or is it that's
No,
all he used?
nope, that's all he's used. Well, we haven't had a good enough looking spring,
Right, right.
crop in the spring to want to go throw some money at. It's part of that, but
Yeah,
he was even seeing a 5 to 7 bushel bump, and then a 1 to 1.5 points higher in protein, which I don't know that we'll say that
yeah,
guarantee that if
yeah,
you use Return OS, but it was impressive. And I mean, I think it really does speak to the importance of nitrogen in that weeds, and the timing of it too, when it comes to protein on and yield and tillering in the wheat. So that's kind of my number one focus with wheat.
yeah, yeah. Just like you said, get that fall tillering the best ability you can. And at the end of the day, if you don't have moisture, it doesn't really matter. But it it helps get that root structure off to a better start, where it is able to anchor down well for the winter time, possibly go a little deeper and get to a little more moisture. Last year we had really good rain in September, and we were off to a really good start, but it just, for one, it never froze, and then two, it never snowed or rained, which is unfortunate because, yeah, come early November, there's some really good stands of wheat, and it's like, oh, we're gonna have a pretty decent crop here come next summer, and that definitely was not the case.
Yeah, we caught some of those late August, early September rains, and I think it gave guys a lot of hope, and that's one thing I see with visiting with our customers is you get kind of down when you're not getting any rains, and it's tough, and stuff just doesn't pencil. Everything's burning up out there, and we're seeing that a lot with dryland corn right now here. And mid-August, it's like there's not a whole lot of areas that still has some decent looking dryland corn in northeast Colorado. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
somehow.
but but somehow every year, like we'll catch an inch or two of rain in August or September, and sure enough, like spirits are right back up, and they're like, "All right, let's go raise a great wheat crop." So the farmers are just very resilient. I always enjoy kind of seeing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and you actually have seen a lot more guys too, kind of go back to um, using iron to control weeds now. There's a lot more summer follow, and it's a lot cheaper to do that. I really like the no-till for, I mean, for anything, for either a spring crop or for winter wheat. It catches moisture, it holds on to it. It looks, it's has a nice little cover for it. But when you chem fallow, that starts getting expensive. And then when it actually does rain, here come the weeds again.
right, no, it does get expensive, but I mean, we're talking about the limited moisture, and that's definitely something you've seen. We've seen over and over, even wheat going in behind year old corn stalks will have a lot more moisture, but then especially like with your wheat, if it's sometimes they'll use those shell-borne stripper headers and leave a lot of residue, like that's another, like, the corn there is still hanging on. A lot that I've seen that's in that stripper straw versus even shorter straw or full tillage. um, Really any residue out there is going to help retain some of that moisture.
Yeah. So that's it's like, yeah, the chem fallow is expensive, and these weeds are getting harder to kill. But if you tie that back to well, I'm going to have moisture, better chance for my crop to hang on. I mean, at the end of the day, it could be a lot higher ROI, going Kim fallow. But that's kind of some of the challenges, we face at planting. It's do we have moisture? Where's it at? Are we chasing that moisture? Usually let's say we have a pretty good profile of moisture. And it's always difficult every year because there might be some rain in the forecast. So people like to wait because, you drill it and then maybe we get an inch of rain that came in 20 minutes. And now that, especially in that summer fallow where it's, worked with blades and stuff before we plant, and then that ground gets sealed off and we got crusting. And so that's another plus for no-till. I mean, you're not going to see that near as much. But when you're planting, I think we usually like to go about an inch deep. If there's adequate moisture. But if there's moisture, not till you hit 2 inches. I mean, you can't be afraid to go chase it.
Farmers know that nitrogen can be fickle. One big downpour, one hot spell, and a big part of your nitrogen investment can disappear. But nitrogen provided by Pivot Bio's gene-edited microbes is weatherproof. It stays locked in at the roots, anchoring your nitrogen plants with steady, always-on nutrition. No leaching, no runoff, no matter the forecast. Farmers are all too familiar with the nitrogen dilemma. Crops need nitrogen to thrive and produce strong yields. But with synthetic fertilizers, a significant portion of your nitrogen may never make it to the crop, robbing plants of the critical nutrients they need to thrive. Studies and field trials highlight Pivot Bio's strong performance in areas with difficult spring weather. In these areas with excessive rain and saturated soils, Pivot Bio's gene-edited microbes continue to supply nitrogen in the root zone when and where crops need it most. The result? Less stress on your crops, higher yield potential, and happier harvests. So bring it on, Mother Nature.
I don't know that I actually ever got into good moisture in growing corn. Like, I think I about broke my shovel. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, when you're making your plan here too, so a great way to start out would be using something like Pivot Bio for your fall nitrogen. So, at least with that in the fall, it's a pretty easy way to get your started off with your fall tillering to get you to that point. And then, based on your soil samples, you can kind of see how the winter goes and make a good plan over the winter depending on, what kind of stand you have. It is important to do good, instead of a drive by, 50-mile-an-hour windshield scout, like actually go look and see how the stand is. 'Cause that's going to tell you a lot about, where your yield potential could end up and what you're actually dealing with. So then, once you have that data, you can really look for your top dress and, hey, this is where my soil level's at. This is, I had some good tillering this fall, or it wasn't very good. Like let's adjust our goals. And then for the, in the spring when everybody's going to top dress, now we have those rates and everything. A lot of times we like to use we'll go top dress 28005 at least. It may, depending on the sulfur levels, we might make a different blend, but that's mainly what we're going after. I mean, we have supplemented some phos in the spring as well. It's not ideal just because it's hard to get it moved down in the soil. I mean, it was kind of we didn't put any on in the fall because there wasn't any moisture, but we actually did get some, and then we were short, so we tried. I mean, I guess we didn't have any strips. I mean, I guess it turned out okay, but not ideal. I mean, we're mainly what we're looking for.
yeah, Foss and like specifically either whether it's 1034 or Pro Germ just really isn't meant to be much of a foliar feed Foss. I'm actually kind of excited. AgriLiquid's coming out with a foliar feed Foss next year, so that'll be kind of interesting to see. We might have another opportunity there. You're right though. Without that foliar uptake and a top dress pass, or I mean, a lot of guys stream on too. So then you're not even, then you're definitely talking about trying to get that Foss into the ground or at least have some root interception there. So it's got to be under the soil a little bit, and that is hard to do with phos where it's very immobile. The other thing I really like in the spring that's perfect for wheat, and you will have a lot less leaf burn, just because it's a stabilized and a lot safer nitrogen. With AgroLiquid's chelation is their product called High End, and that's a 27001. Um, and yeah, what I guess the biggest benefit of that is that you can run higher gallons and not burn the wheat. And then yeah, you get a little bit of you already have a stabilizer with it. You already have a a carbon molecule, a plant-based carbon molecule with it as the chelant. So you're going to get a little better uptake there too than what you would just a normal 28005. Another product we do to kind of make our own high end is add enhance to that 28005, and that helps tie up some of that ammonium that you're smelling, that's gassing off really. So it helps tie some of that up, where when we're adding enhance to it. So it's essentially a stabilizer, but it's a sulfur product.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. It's always good to use some of these protected, slower release products. And if you're not using one of those products, you know, it's good to. I think it's easily worth the money to put a stabilizer in. I mean, that's basically what we're doing there. But you might as well, especially where nitrogen was or still is. I mean, that's a big expense that you want to make sure it's still there. And it extends that window for, to catch some rain. I mean, if you get an extra 2 weeks out of it, I mean, that really helps your risk of keeping that nitrogen there and being able to, actually utilize it instead of wasting your money.
Meet Nutrique from AgroLiquid, the smart nutrient choice for growers. AgroLiquid's exclusive technology brings you precision crop nutrition with peak performance. Nutrique is the proven choice for crops. Backed by nearly 40 years of AgroLiquid research, our Nutrique technology caters to your unique crop nutrition needs and soil composition. Nutrique ensures the availability of nutrients, the synergy between primary and secondary nutrients, and the use of high-quality materials. Altogether, this approach is what makes peak performance possible. So what does peak performance look like? It means maximum nutrient utilization with maximum efficiency, enhanced plant absorption with controlled amounts released at precise times, and overall ease of use, allowing you to spend less time in the field and use less product overall. Nutrique from AgroLiquid, the smart choice for growers.
Well, I know we're kind of halfway through the spring right now, talking about top dress. I wanted to back up to fall one more time. And really, to me, that's one of the biggest benefits of using Pivot Bio's winter wheat product is that you are able to, in a high synthetic or a high price of 32 right now, you're able to kind of kick that can down the road. And, using that, it's like, okay, I'm going to guarantee myself really good fall tillering, supply a little bit of nitrogen, and, really postpone my decision until I have 4 more months of weather information. Okay. Did we get any moisture? I'm not going to go out there and throw 50 pounds of nitrogen, and already have, another $30 an acre in an expense, not even knowing if I'm going to have a crop come March or April. So I think that's a good benefit too, is it kind of delays or, mitigates that risk a little bit. So that's another good plus of that product. Let's talk seed treatments a little bit on wheat.
Okay.
So, most guys, I think, even if well, I'm sure there's a fair amount of bin run wheat as well too in the area, but most guys are putting at least some kind of fungicide or insecticide on it with it, whether it be Cruiser Max. That's that bright red typically product that stains everything, so
Yeah.
don't get it on your clothes. But
A good,
it's really going after your Rhizoctonia, Fusarium, and Pythium. protecting that wheat. So I'm always a big fan of using some kind of fungicide. And another thing we can do that's about half the cost of that is our grain link pail and the fungicide that we can add to that too.
So we actually did this last year, and we found out that Pivot Bio will mix with the Cruiser Max. We actually treated Pivot Bio at the seed plant down the road. Shout out Andrews Brothers.
Yeah.
But no, we were actually able to mix those products together and treat the seed. So uh, even though you might be treating it somewhere else, if you were wanting to try some Pivot Bio or needed some Pivot Bio, it can also get mixed with those products and be completely fine. And it's a one-time treatment.
Yeah, so we've had a dry grain link for 2 years now, or 2 falls, I guess. So getting ready to go in our third year. Now we're going to have a liquid grain link registered, which is kind of exciting. But really, what we're going after with that product is, that adenosine monophosphate that's in all of the link products, grain link, seed link, and rhizolink. Just really helping that seedling not use too much of its energy on trying to get out of the ground. Instead, really trying to provide that emergence aid. The other thing that we have in GrainLink is, multiple different bacillus strands that are very common out there in the market, but also some fungi. So a lot of these soils out here where we have seen, P2 numbers climbing, and we're just having trouble unlocking that FOS. This is a really good way to stimulate, some biology and get some biology working for you and start producing some of those enzymes that actually unlocks that or solubilizes that phosphorus, moves it from P2 over to P1. And there's a lot of other products out there on the market too that claim to do something similar. I think what really sets GrainLink apart, well, really all the Link products that we've created, is we're not just applying biology, we're applying, the biology with, multiple food sources. So we've got sugars, we've got over 19 different amino acids in there, and we've got some humic and fulvic. So we've got some long and small chain carbon. So we're really trying to get that biology off to a good start too. The other unique thing about ours is that everything in there is going to survive the winter. So it's going to be around there working for you next spring too. And I mean, that was one of the reasons we kind of got our biological consortium decided on, was like, okay, what's hardy, what's going to last long, what's going to be, um, a good fit for our soils here.
Yeah, that's big to have it go through the winter and keep producing for you in the spring. Um, I guess one thing I would say, it is not a 100% FOSS starter replacement. It's more, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more like you said, like when if you're if you're in the single digit parts per million FOSS with not a lot of P2, like it's not going to be a saving grace. But on the back end, when you do have a lot of uh, reserve FOSS, it's going to help unlock it, like you said. If it's like, well, we got a bunch of FOSS out here, I'm not going to apply any. Well, a really easy return and really a sound decision would be to use GrainLink to help you unlock that FOSS for the plant, because if you just kind of go naked without any FOSS in your starter, you're kind of putting yourself at risk to not even tap into it.
Right, right. And our species that we have in there specifically for FOSS is Pseudomonas putida, and then like that's all that species of bacteria does. Like it loves to solubilize FOSS. So and that was the main reason we put it in there, is because that was one of the things we wanted to be able to help guys with. Because like I said, whether it's a history of manure or just a history of a lot of 1034, thrown out year after year. Um, it's very common to have high P2 numbers.
Mhm.
So, but you're exactly right. Yeah, not a full FOS replacement. If you need pounds of FOS, you need pounds of FOS. But this is something to help unlock what you've already paid for. Let's make those dollars actually get into the plant instead of just sitting in this bank for your grandchildren and
Yeah.
locked up in the soil.
Yeah.
So, I guess the other part of GrainLink is that biological fungicide product. So that's, the actual registered pesticide. There would be our Companion Max, and then we're adding a Chitonox product or a Chitozan product, with a species of Bavaria bassiana, and that's actually going to give us a little bit of um, army worm protection too. I know there's a lot of areas that battle with that army worm, especially in the early planted. You get into that. Late August, early September. A lot of times we're going to have pretty heavy pressure in some soils, so that's something that we've seen. Really didn't expect it to work as well as it did. It was really that product was made to go after seed corn maggot and wireworm, and sure enough, we last fall we observed some pretty stark differences in stand count, and where we were able to control with the Bavaria bassiana strain some army worm.
Yeah, that's I guess around here we don't mess with it too much. But yeah, those like you said, those earlier planted acres in certain areas, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it seems like it's a little bit more. Oh, I don't even know what the line would be. Maybe east of Colby, Kansas. Kind of getting into that west central Kansas, and then all the way east, and then down south of us, and southern southeast Colorado and Oklahoma Panhandle, and that's typically where the people that I've heard of really struggling with it. So yeah, but I know that was a lot of different products out there, and I mean, you can always call Samurai with questions on it, but it's just an easy way to have a fungicide, insecticide, emergence aid, a little bit of phosphorus, all thrown into one package. The biology and all the food source, to help get that biology thriving and working for you, all in one. Pretty easy dry or liquid seed treatment, for under $10 for everything.
Yeah.
You split it out and it's just a few bucks here and there. So
Yeah.
you can really pick and choose what you actually need for your area. If you don't need the insect protection, great, let's throw it out. And that's probably the biggest thing in a market where we've got, high fertilizer prices and lower, just lower wheat or grain prices in general, really across the board in every crop. I think a lot of times guys are tempted, like, oh, let's not treat, let's not treat the seed this year. Let's run wheat. And it's like, don't plan to fail from the beginning. It's like, I know it's hard, but like, you really do have to go out there with like, the mindset of I'm going to raise a crop, and I don't cut something that's actually providing a ton of ROI for you. Don't try to save your way to prosperity.
Like you said, I know this last year kind of burned a lot of guys with, this is the lowest amount of wheat we've cut maybe ever because of the drought. So there's a bad taste in a lot of guys, a lot of farmers' mouths about doing wheat. And I know with the conversations, the first thing is I don't want to put very much into it. Don't start off on the wrong foot. Still keep the same standards and practices that you usually do. And when you get into harvest, you're going to be glad you did it. Don't just bail on things because of price and what happened in the past. And because who knows? It could rain. We could have potential for next summer 70, 80 bushel dry. And when you skimp in the fall because you already have these preconceived notions of of last year in your head, you're gonna hurt yourself. You're gonna lose out on yield. Where we want to cut, I would say, would be more in that, see where your tillering is, see how the winter goes with snow. Is that, is the top dress application? Well, what do we actually have out there? How did the winter go? How's the snow? What's forecasted? Then we can adjust those numbers. So that's going to be your biggest input anyway, is your nitrogen and sulfur. So don't get it off to the wrong foot because you're scared to spend a little money, I think.
Perfect. No, I like it. I think that's a good way to end it. Yeah, it's hard to be optimistic, but we're actually forecasted to get a couple inches of rain here between the next 2 days. So I'm really, yep. I know. That's what, that's a lot of my conversations with customers this week have been like, well, I'll believe it when I see it, or yeah. Man, I hope so. We sure need it, but
yeah.
Wow, we sound like we're from Western Nebraska the way we're talking about how dry it is.
Yeah, I know.
Pretty bad.
No offense to Western Nebraska, but
yeah. All right. Well, yeah, send us your other week questions. And you can always email us or message us on our website, nextgenfertilizers.com. Find our all our podcasts on our website as well. And tune in and see you next time. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast.